Welcome to Forever Exiled. I'm Justin AK Tags.
And I'm Tyler, Wrecker of Days.
Episode 273 of Forever Exiled. Merry Christmas to everybody. Patrons, thank you so much. What? I feel like I'm off. But anyway, Merry Christmas, 273, Forever Exiled. Patrons, we love your faces. Thanks everybody who resubbed up this week. Patrons access to our After Dark. It's our podcast after the podcast where we just talk. We vibe, you know?
Like really well.
Hang. Two best friends that anyone could have. Yeah, we're gonna talk. We got some stuff to talk about. Discord. Join our Discord. We've had a lot of people in there. It's the best. And 2121. I'm reading Ty's notes. I am Ron Burgundy. But yes, Discord. If you're not in our Discord, you should come and say hi. And Global 2121 has actually been awesome for me, at least this week. Lots of help. Although controller chatting is not good.
It's
annoying.
But you can use the Xbox app as your keyboard, which is kind of neat.
I don't mind using my keyboard. It's just the combo of when you're allowed to type, it's just weird to me. If I'm just playing and I hit enter, I can start typing. It works fine. But if I'm in my character screen, then I can't. And if I'm in the character screen and you want to share an item, good Lord, you better start, you got to write down the combo of okay, L trigger to bring it up, but then B to go back to my inventory, then hold down X, then hold down L trigger, then type. Confuses me.
And if you accidentally hit B one too many times, you have to start over.
Yeah, it all starts right from the get-go. But anyway, yes. Global 2121 is where we hang out. And
we had some folks in there, I guess, during the holidays. 2121 wasn't very busy, just for a day or two or something like that. So anyway, I'm in. I think it's like Christmas evening or something like that. And, the house is as quiet as a mouse, I guess you could say. And so I'm playing, and I'm hoping to play for a couple of hours. And a name, Global 2121's full of names that I don't recognize because they're character names, not account names. And honestly, the names I'm familiar with are Discord names, not in-game names. But anyway, point is character names are even less familiar. But for some reason, the way this person was talking was no, that doesn't seem right. That doesn't seem us. And as we keep talking, all of a sudden, it's this person's extremely confused about what's happening. Why are there so many people in this chat all of a sudden? What's going on? Apparently, they decided to use 2121 right at a perfect time when our community was kind of down for the holidays or whatever it was. It wasn't busy and they didn't notice anyone. So they were there with their buddies, and all of a sudden, whatever time, Christmas evening or whatever it was, 2121 just went back with the Forever Exiled community, and that poor person was like, what's going on? It wasn't
this
busy.
Was ours.
That's right. And
I can tell that's funny. I can tell your wife must have been on your computer.
Why?
Your Discord keeps cutting in and out with your audio. You know how we take that slider so that you're always on? I was actually wondering when you coughed earlier. I thought that's odd. Did he somehow half mute his cough?
I'm changing it mid-recording.
Perfect. But anyway, that is awesome. That's really fun. I wonder how somebody just randomly found, I guess, because it does throw you into a random channel, but maybe they just love 2121 and they thought
21's just a stupid number, Justin. Everybody likes it. It's not original. Yeah,
it is the place to be. It's so fun. So thank you, everybody.
Yeah, and hopefully everybody did have a good Christmas, safe Christmas, wholesome Christmas, and of course New Year's will be out before we release another episode.
Happy New
so
Year's
please
too.
Have a wonderful New Year. We hope you had a great 2024. Hopefully 2025 is great. I know that sounds generic, but rough seasons of life suck. So hopefully, especially if you've gone through one recently, you're going to go through a season of just some nice, sweet, well, for me, a sweet season would be peace and quiet, but whatever it is that would just make you feel at home, good, and don't do anything or have an attitude where you need to be reminded to be thankful. Hopefully you have a wonderful, wonderful year. But Justin and I promise to hunt you down if you have an unsafe New Year's Eve. We will hunt you down.
Be safe. Be safe. There's Ubers, there's taxis, there's everything. So go out and have a good time, but don't drink and drive. Be smart. But have a great New Year's. That is right. This is a New Year's episode. So happy New Year's to everybody. And hopefully Christmas was great. How was your week, Ty?
We had a good week. It was Christmas and my in-laws are staying with us, which is nice. And we decided, we hosted Christmas dinner for my wife's side of the family, which is 18 people.
Oh, you had everybody too?
Last year. Oh, okay. And so this year we refused to, but there was, I don't know if it was miscommunication, moreover, just unsure about what schedules were, but a week to Christmas, things still weren't falling into place. So that was fine for us. We wanted to make sure that my mom and then my wife's parents had a Christmas dinner. So we just did that. And then we invited my sister, cousin, and husband. So, because my side of the family,
small,
well, that's left alive, is quite small yet. And so my wife hosted again, and my wife and her mom did a fantastic job. We had a wonderful dinner, but the thing that makes it wonderful is they felt like it was worth it, because it's a ton of work to go through all that stuff and make a lot of fancy dishes for the family and all the fancy china. So it was wonderful, all the effort they put in, and my kids had a wonderful Christmas morning. It was just really smooth. Like the kids were allowed to wake us up whenever they wanted. So unfortunately that was 5:30.
Oh, dang.
And so, but if you're staying with us, you're part of Christmas morning. So I sent the kids downstairs to wake up Mops and Pops are the grandparents' names. So they went downstairs, woke up Mops and Pops, and the kids were absolutely wonderful. And my wife and I, like, we're thrifty, picky. Like, we don't have the money to be extravagant. And I also don't think it's good to be too extravagant at Christmas, but we still ended up buying more than we wanted to.
Pretty normal.
Obviously the kids are in heaven for that, but like we, oh man, but they really want this. And it was like everything that we knew would have been perfect for them ended up being on a sale, where it was just like, man, if we're eventually going to get this, saving the $30 is nice. So we unfortunately went overboard, but the kids loved it and they had such a great time. And it was just a really, I don't know, I guess you could say quiet, perfect Christmas. Everybody got along, and it was nice, man. We had good holidays, and my mom didn't cook for the first time in forever and ever. So that was nice for her. I hope she had a good time as well. But it was safe. Everybody was good, and we had a great time, man. How about you? Awesome. How was your week?
Christmas as well. We're dealing with
Christmas as well.
We're dealing with some sickness. So Christina came down with laryngitis, which apparently is induced by stress, which is kind of makes sense for what's, this time of year. But
'tis the season.
So she was having a hard time speaking and just dealing with all that. And on Christmas Eve, so the 23rd,
that's what we call
it. I woke up in the morning and couldn't breathe because of the pain in my back. I had such pain going down, but this time it was sort of to the mid lower back on the left side, but it was so intense that I couldn't breathe. And I had so much that I needed to get done that day. And so I took some drugs and then tried to suck it up. But like not 2 hours. That's way too long. Half an hour, 45 minutes into my day, I was walking and I almost passed out because I couldn't breathe. Like, I stood straight up I couldn't get a deep breath in. And if you can only just keep taking shallow breaths, it gets really hard. So I stood straight up, took a deep breath in, and literally almost passed out from it. So I went home and spent the whole day on the 23rd flat out. Like, I couldn't get up. I was laid down pretty much the whole day. And then the 24th went and saw chiro guy. I called it because I thought it's a pulled muscle, I'll be fine. Woke up 24th, same thing, couldn't breathe still. So I went in, got him to work it a bit, which helped out a bit, but I still have it. It's still there. I'm going back again. I could have gone today, but I can't make today work. So I'm going on Monday. But so frustrating because I'm really struggling with breath because of whatever's going on there. And then Christmas itself Christmas was great. Kids had a good time. It was funny. They said I think on Christmas Eve, they said, okay, well, we can't wake mom and dad up until 7:30. And after Christina, I was like, how did we get that extra half hour? Like, it's always been 7 for since the dawn of time. Our kids get up, They can get us up at 7. And for some reason they picked 7:30. I was like, all right. And they sat and suffered for a whole extra half hour because they were definitely awake before 7:30. Awesome. But no, we had a great time. It was a ton of family over and people together, and Christina goes crazy and she's a superstar with the meals and the food and everything. And it was good. My dad does the turkey. So
laryngitis.
Well, so I mean, that makes it obviously harder when she's not feeling great. So I'm like attempting to help, but I'm also like, I'm more of assist in the kitchen. Like, I have
assist.
Yeah,
cyst.
CYST. Yep, I have a couple jobs. Like I'm in charge of a few things, so I make sure those are done. But they are very simple things. But it was good. We had a ton of people over, so we always invite her side of the family and my side of the family, and it's just easier for us too because then we're not traveling from house to house and doing all these things. And so we just say, hey, we're doing one big dinner, and if you can come, great, and if not, no worries, we'll see you later. So yeah, it was good. It's also, I mean, it's the same thing. It's a day of kids being spoiled, and we had a deal with our kids though that they were going to have to donate a bunch of toys beforehand, which they do anyway, but they were out on Christmas Eve doing a big donation with a bunch of their toys just to try and, get rid of stuff that they're not playing with. And we knew there was more stuff coming in. So overall, it was good. I tried as best I could to not do any work. I'm trying not to work today at all. I'm hoping not to work. I have to work on Monday. I've got meetings on Monday, but I'm trying to not do any work today. And then okay, so just one thing I want to tell you because I thought it was funny. I get shampoo for Christmas. Yep, Santa brought me some shampoo. Santa knows me well, and Sunday morning, or not Sunday, Christmas morning, I'm like, I'm gonna go have a shower and I'm gonna take my new shampoo that I got. So I take my shampoo, go up and have a shower. I don't know why, but for some reason I was in the shower and I'm like reading the back of the bottle as if I need instructions or something. I mean, it's shampoo, I know how to work it, but like, how older. Long. Yeah. Anyway, on the back of it, it says, man, I wish I could remember exactly how the wording is, but it's basically something moisture is the name of the company. And it says specifically designed for men of color. And I was like, all right, cool. What's this gonna do?
I've got a color.
She noticed I tanned.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So it was overall though, you know what? Christmas is always good. It's nice to see everybody and have everybody together. And
does it actually say that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I'm glad you had a great Christmas, but
it actually does. It was an interesting one.
Interesting because
I had my hair cut. The next day on Boxing Day, I went to get my haircut and I was laughing with my barber about it. And he's younger than I am. And he's like, why? And I'm like, I don't know. I was kind of curious. He's like, it's all the same shit. So I'm not really sure. But anyway, it smelled great.
You're a white guy in the shower. You're like, huh, that's too bad. I really wanted to use this.
I was really hoping to shampoo today.
Dang it.
Guys. Yeah. It was good. We've got a bunch of people coming over for New Year's Eve, so that'll be fun to see everybody. And then,
did you officially invite people?
Think so. I put it in the game planning chat.
Did you? I thought that was just
a long
Christmas
time ago. No, a long time ago. Maybe I should repost it. But I got a bunch of people messaging me saying that they were coming back. I don't even know how to find it in here. Is it this one? This one? There, I just re-upped it, but I did do it. I had put a thing up there a while back.
New Year's Eve. No, the last one was
I'm not saying recent, but I definitely put something out there a while back because people told me they were coming. And I've had messages from people saying, hey, do you need me to bring anything? Blah, blah, blah.
I think they're assuming that you're just doing it because you do it every year. But
no, because even Darrell said he was coming.
In the games night chat, it's only Christmas and I'm showing to October.
Well, I did do it. I'll have to find it, but I'm not gonna say it was recent. But
it was last November.
Yeah.
I was just covering 2 Christmases in a row. Anyway, I wasn't like criticizing. It doesn't matter. People are going to assume, but just in case people keep asking you like what time or something like that.
I might not have. Well, somehow people know because people are coming. Anyway. And if not, then it'll be a nice quiet one with me and my.
That's right.
Me and my stuff. I played PoE this week quite a bit.
Did you?
Mm-hmm.
Which one?
2. PoE 1 doesn't exist to me anymore.
You know what?
It's just a reference for me. It's a reference, which I have to stop doing, but it is. It's a reference for PoE 2.
You know
That's
what?
Part of my thing.
I'm the complete opposite right now. It also, Path of Exile 1 now means nothing to me. It's uninstalled. Goodbye forever. but I have to reference it.
Oh, well, we'll talk about that because I'm curious.
Yeah, later on.
Another time.
Yeah, another podcast, maybe.
All right, so let's get into it. I mean, Merry Christmas to GG. I know there's not much that came out obviously this week, and good for them enjoying their Christmas. And now get to work, guys.
Yeah, that's right. Christmas was a few days ago. Okay, get back. No,
that's right.
To emphasize, like, I've been given a hard time of my opinions regarding early access, but I definitely love it when a company prioritizes their employees and the people, and they remember that people are people, right? That the product's not more important. So no matter what your opinion is, a stage you're at with early access, I'm thankful and glad that GGG treats their employees like real people.
Get your best
and I'm
work out of those ones.
But I guess I'm impressed that they do, because I think I said, this sounds familiar, so maybe I said this last week, but I'm always just impressed when people can push aside the pressures of money and income and deadlines and all that, and keep reality in perspective. So good for them.
Yeah. I'm just going to suggest that you just try to consistently stay the same distance.
My back's too sore, man.
Is
Sorry.
It?
Yeah.
Have you had a bad back for a bit? Like, has it been bugging you for a while?
Yeah, quite a few years.
Oh, it's the same issue. Nothing.
Yeah,
it's not something new.
Same stuff.
Okay, so let's get into Path of Exile 2.
You played lots this week, so you do your thing.
Okay, so I did play a lot. I'm having a lot of fun. I did not take notes this week, so I'm winging it. But I have not touched my warrior since last we spoke. I have played the witch pretty substantially. I am level 90 or 89. I just did my 4th ascendancy, which that was a chore, getting ascended. I will say to anybody who is looking to do their ascension via Sakama, get relics with honor resistance, which is a new, I don't remember that in Sanctum times. Getting up to 75% honor resistance, sadly, is kind of necessary, and it makes it much, much smoother. They did, the traps were better this time, because I know that they had fixed the traps, so they were better, but they're also like crazy better with honor resistance, and like percentage defense. I worked my way up to collecting relics so that I had 75% honor and I could fit them in. The 3rd ascension was not too bad. Like, it was a bit whatever. What it's the normal. People were arguing with me that that this is a test of skill. It's I don't care who you are. It's a test of RNG. There is such a random part to Sanctum with regards to the rooms you get, the afflictions or boons you could get. There just is. I don't know how else to say it. They're both of them, Ultimatum and Sanctum, have some form of randomness to it, and I would argue that that's not the same as Lab. Lab wasn't the same random effect. You had randomness in the sense of like what type attacks was Azaro going to do, but there was nothing random in your process to getting to that boss fight. It was just going to be a test of could you handle the boss fight. And as much as I hated Lab, I prefer that over what we have right now. But I did do it. I got the honor resistance, and that helped me out a lot. The 4th one was very frustrating because I went through it. I got to the very last boss on the 4th floor, and I decided I would just take a look. I asked in 2121, I looked up online, like, what does this person do? So I had at least a relatively decent idea of what the fight was going to look like. But there's a phase in his fight that is like Eater of Worlds balls, like where you got to run through the circles. Now, you don't have to stop in them, like to let them disperse, but you do have to run through them. But there's an added mechanic, which is that so there's like maybe 6 or 7 circles you got to run through. He's not targetable during that time, but as you run through those balls, you're being slowed to the point where your character will actually stop moving, and you're on a timer. You can see the timer going a circle. Now, I have 7,500 honor going into this fight, like very, very high amounts of honor. I, using just 30% movement skills and trying to roll because you're moving so slow, couldn't get to the last circle, the second phase of his fight, and he literally just like freezes time, jumps over top of your character, and like boop with his finger on top of you, and all of your honor's gone. It's a wipe. For the 4th floor, like to get to the final boss after going through 4 floors, to have it end like that, I was so bugged. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, so I looked it up online. I was talking with people in 2121.
Yeah, I'm curious what it is that
and a huge thank you to the people in 2121 for helping me with this. Because somebody was saying, and sorry, I don't know character names to who you are on Discord, but thank you to whoever you are, was talking about this weapon swap using Blink. And I was like, I have not looked at weapon swap. I haven't looked at the skill swap thing like at all yet. So I have to look up how that works. They were explaining to me how it works. But I literally, the way that I had to do it was using a weapon swap, which actually turns out, if you're a minion player, a weapon swap is very good and frustrating that it's necessary. But I do the weapon swap, which swaps my weapon and shield out. And then on that bar, when I'm on the weapon swap, I have Blink, which is a spirit reservation. It replaces your dodge with like a blink forward. I had to use that. So basically, which is wicked stressful if you haven't been doing weapon swap. Going into that fight, I practiced like, okay, I weapon swap, then I can hit my roll. But instead of a roll, you actually blink forward. And I had to use that to get through, like, basically, because there's a timer on your roll, there's a timer on blink as well. So like planning out, okay, I know I can, because you get a few seconds to look at where the balls are. So going, okay, I know I can run to this one, then that one, then I'm going to blink to this one, and then blink one more time for that last one. And I did get it done. However, this is where the randomness part of it comes into play. When I did the first fight, I had to do that phase twice. The first phase, I was able to do it with a roll. Barely, but I was able to do it for the roll. But the second time he did that phase, I couldn't do it. And people said to me, well, just kill him faster, jokingly, right? In 2121, of course, a bunch of assholes. But the second time I did his fight, I had a boon for 40% more damage for me and my minions. I had a boon for 30% less enemy HP. Like I had I got very lucky in that run that made it so he never even got close to the second phase. I only had to do it the one time. So it's another part of where I feel like the randomness is unfortunate, because you could get into an area where you're just, you're kind of screwed. But it was a really cool idea for a fight, but it was a really frustrating mechanic, especially to have a one shot in that type of environment. Like 4 floors of Sanctum is way longer than an Uber run, way longer. And so I did, whatever. I got it done. Like I'm fully ascended now, and I got my character up to, I think, 89 or 90. And it was really fun to get the Infernalist up to the 4th ascension, because that meant that I could take that one that I wanted to try, where it was now not only was 25% of my my health going to spirit, but now 25% was going to energy shield combined with Grim Feast. I did mapping with it, and it felt great. Like it's very, very tanky and defensive at this point, and I do like that. I mentioned the weapon swapping thing. It is sad, and hopefully that at some point the backup option is showing that it's available now. I didn't look at it since we had the power outage. Anyway, no backup, still running.
It's still running.
We're running, but there's no backup running. I never hit the button. So weapon swapping, you know how I've talked about minions being frustrating with like getting through small spaces, corridors, whatever. Weapon swapping is crazy for that, because when I weapon swap, I just don't have my minions turned on for that weapon swap as spirit, which means as soon as I weapon swap, all of my minions disappear. And as soon as I get to the open spot and weapon swap back, they all res in that spot, which means I can run through that corridor and then swap back, and all of a sudden my minions are back. I don't like that that's a mechanic that is beneficial to a minion player. It doesn't make sense to me. I was having conversations with people in Discord and in 2121 that maybe there's this argument of if you have no collision on minions with each other, then the minions could all stand on top of each other and attack. And I get that doesn't look good, but I also don't care. I don't know what the solution is, but the idea that I run through a door by myself and one minion runs through and the rest just like stand there and wait is really frustrating, especially when you're in higher tier maps. Like I can't dance around forever. Like I need stuff to die for me to survive. So Yeah, but anyway, the weapon swap did work great for that. But then yesterday I decided I was going to try something different. I was laughing with Soja in chat in game about my experience with the monk when we went to LA. So I was like, I'm gonna try a monk. I'm gonna see if I can get past my hurdle of not feeling smart enough to play this character. So I started a monk yesterday. Just got him to cruel. So he's finished the first 3 acts. I think my same problem that I had with the monk, and I will probably have with a lot of characters, is still the same thing that I'm going to have a problem with. We'll see how it goes, but it's too many buttons. For me to like do what I want to do and play how I want to play, it's not a simple, I'm not looking for one button. I don't mind 3 or 4 buttons on the controller, but with the monk, I'm feeling more like it's like 6. Like I'm at a point now where I'm going like, hey, for me, I really wanted to play cold. I love chill. I love freeze. I love shatter. I've always liked that, even back to Path of Exile 1 days. So I was trying to focus on that, but I feel like I'm pushing my limit for how many buttons I'm going to need to make the build feel the way I want it to feel. So we'll see. It's not bad. Like I'm finished the acts. I finished the first 3 acts, going into cruel now. But yeah. Whatever it is, it's where it's at. Nothing's really changed with regards to my opinions. I was thinking about it this week. The things I don't like have not changed. Obviously, the GG hasn't been around. Nothing's been addressed. So we have no idea if they're even going to change. But I was realizing that the reason I'm playing is because I like Path of Exile. Like I enjoy the ARPG genre, and it gives me the best experience in that genre. So that's why I play it. I love the leveling. I love the trying to pick up loot. I love the trying to build your character. And on the building character side, I think they've actually done a phenomenal job, like of playing with the skill tree, playing around with your character, how it's going to work, resist, balancing all this stuff. Like I think they've done a pretty good job of that. There's gameplay mechanics that I really don't like. I mean, nobody would be surprised to hear me say that on-death effects are terrible. They're not a fun mechanic whatsoever. It's a never ever fun. But when you couple that with this crazy idea of single death mechanic is bananas. I just don't feel like it's fair to have both. I really don't. I don't think you can choose to go, we're going to have massive on-death effects and you're going to have one shot at this. And it's not even just one shot at the map. I didn't realize there's these citadels that you have to pick up. I have no idea how they work. There's citadels which drop these special items if you beat the boss. Those special items are used at some other special place, which I've never seen yet in the Atlas. But you have to collect them from, I think, 2 or 3 different types of citadels. Citadels make you refight the act bosses. So I've fought 2 so far. I've had to fight 2 of the act bosses. I did the act 1 boss, but like I didn't really know what I was getting into, but the modifiers obviously affect the boss. And so I got myself into trouble and I died to the act 1 boss. Those citadels are legit map failed. You can never attempt it again, but they're very rare and random to find them on the Atlas. So I just felt like it's not fair. Like I'm trying to learn a fight, or the fact is, Act 1 boss, I'm still learning that fight. Even now, I've played through the act so many times, I'm still learning it. But when you add in
just because you beat it doesn't mean you mastered it. It just means it worked out for you.
I got lucky sometimes. I didn't really understand what I was doing, but then throw in map modifiers, it's even harder. I just don't understand the idea of the single portal. Like I don't get where that comes from. I don't understand if that's supposed to be like a lore thing. I really don't. It doesn't make any sense to me. And it doesn't make sense to put somebody into a situation where they're trying to learn their character, or I think the worst part is trying to understand what got you and how could you alter that. But then your next map is completely different. It's new mobs, new mechanics, new modifiers, like nothing's the same. So you're learning even less. And I don't like that side of it. So I think that's probably my biggest gripe is you can't have silly mechanics like on-death effects and one-shots combined with single attempts at these things. I just don't think those two mesh well in a game ever at all, because like I would look back. So I think Dark Souls is the best, like you've died, just like deflating, kick you in the ass game for me. And I loved it. But Dark Souls was consistent. I knew what I was up against. I knew what I was about to fight, and I knew how to try and learn it or learn from what I did. In this, I'm not learning anything. I'm never getting better at doing whatever I just did because I don't get to try in that same scenario anymore. So yeah, it's a struggle for me.
And keep going. But one thing that I would like to add to that list that makes the one death aspect of this game conflicting with a fun experience, I guess you could say, like the one portal thing doesn't mesh well with the other decisions that they've made. The other thing the thing that I would add to your list is their apathy to enemy modifier rules, making sure that certain things can't be, certain modifiers can't be combined with certain base types, that certain modifiers exist, like your on-death effect, little things like that. I think are, if you put more effort into that, then you can have a more hardcore experience because you are controlling what is so hardcore about it. But if you are completely apathetic about the random nature of this one shot, you're not, like you said, you're going back all the way to Path of Exile 1, where you're just playing a numbers game. Okay, what's my block at? Okay, what's my recovery? What's this at? What's my, like you're not actually caring about the gameplay. It's just an on-paper experience with the screen at that point.
Yeah, and you're right about the modifiers. Like there are some modifiers that shouldn't be in the game, but there's some modifiers that shouldn't be able to pair well with other ones. And when you put somebody in a position of a single attempt, because it's even that way through Axe. While in Axe I might not have to start a new map, in Axe I have to now fight new mobs. I've lost out on my chance to find out why I die. How could I get better to go against them? But not only that, now I have to clear out the whole area again. I just, there's a part of it that I don't get. I saw a great comment in Global 2121 where they were talking about a frustration with a mob that they were just fighting with. And somebody said, we're playing PoE 2 and the mobs are playing PoE 1, which is a great comment because
that is funny.
They want us to slow down, which could not be more on board with. I don't want to zoom through a map. I don't want to blow up a screen. Like I love the feeling and that whatever, but you can't slow us down and then keep on all these crazy hasted mods for like there's nothing worse. We joked about this. I think when what was the one that brought all these new mods out? What was that called?
Oh, Arch Nemesis.
Arch Nemesis.
Where it kind of
it was their
magnified the essence mods and the bestiary mods. It did the same thing, but with rares.
Yeah, but we laughed back then about this idea of hasted and mana siphoner, and thought like how silly it was that these things could be combined. And the videos out there of people trying to run away because they need to get mana back and they can't. They just can't. So I don't know, man. I don't know. I actually don't understand why the solution is not just get rid of and maybe that may change because again, they've had a break, which is great. They should. Now they got to go back to the table and probably read a bunch of, bug reports and comments from people. I just can't grasp the single, like that's one spot where I would like to see them make a change. I think that they've made some really good changes with other parts of it. Some of the stuff that they changed, like the traps, like I mentioned, there was something else I was just thinking about that I forgot to mention that they had changed and I had noticed it and enjoyed. Oh, the teleporting between checkpoints. I don't need it. I haven't really used it, but it is a cool feature that they have the ability to do that. It doesn't always work. Like I was going through the Axe with my monk and I'd gotten to a boss which had a checkpoint and then the boss killed me. It's the fire one at the end of Act 3. Or not the end of Act 3, but what you think is the end of Act 3.
I have a comment in here that I thought I finished Act 3 times.
Yeah. But the checkpoint didn't work. I couldn't actually get back to that checkpoint at the boss. So I had to go to the checkpoint that was closest to the boss. It was there, but every time I would teleport it would take me back to just the very beginning of the zone. So I'm sure it's just a bug. Someone else will notice it and write it up for them. But
yeah, good job, Just.
But they have made some very good changes. But my real big hope is with them coming back that they don't just go and axe and nerf things that are strong. I would rather them bring some of the things up that were weak, maybe tone down things that were strong, but I don't think you should heavy nerf things. I think you should be finding a way to balance things in a way of bringing them up. I don't want to play Path of Exile Ruthless. And I know that is sort of a huge like influence in PoE 2 is the Ruthless experience, but I want to have fun I don't want to feel like it's a chore, like I'm working to play. And sometimes it feels like I'm not having fun, and that takes away from me wanting to play their game. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm hopeful that they make some changes. For me, the biggest one, I know on death effects are not going away. They just aren't. They've had this conversation before, but the one portal thing is a new thing that they brought in, and I hope that they have some serious conversations about it, because one, it makes zero sense. When I open up a map, I open up 6 portals. You got to change that. It doesn't make sense. If I've got a party of 2, then maybe it's 1 portal. I don't know, something different, but it makes zero sense that I open up 6 portals still and I get 1 portal in. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Does it make sense for trade? I don't trade. Does it make sense for trade?
What do you mean?
Having multiple portals, do you have to portal back like in Path of Exile 1, or how does trade work now? Is it all in the menu?
Trading with another player, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, I can portal out. I can portal out of the map. Yeah, so but for some reason death closes the portal. But yeah, you can portal out to trade with people or to take your loot back or to do some stuff. You can portal back and then you portal back in. But for some reason, the death is the reset on that. And you could argue, I'm sure there's arguments to be made about the risk versus reward, but I just don't think you teach anybody anything by them just dying to something and never ever going back to learn how to do that fight.
The concept is unique and cool, and if you can make it work, awesome. But this is GGG's first time teaching people anything.
Yeah, like and in some stuff they've done great.
I like, sure, that's kind of a dig, but I don't like. I'm not trying to like. If they listen to this, I'm not trying to like dig them at it. They got their habitual ways for Path of Exile 1, and Path of Exile 1 was a horrendous user experience. It was. I mean, experienced players got used to it. But at the end of the day, it was a very disrespectful on experience to the user. Like there was very little where it was like, we're doing this for you, even just the small basics, right? So Path of Exile 2, of course, they're trying to change that. And you can see in Path of Exile 2 is a huge step forward in that. But it still is GGG's first time with like all the crazy tells that they're trying to do now, right? Like much more. They were trying to do that with a lot of the enhancements that they did in the first game. But in terms of the entire packaging combination, to go with a ruthless experience, or sorry, ruthless, I mean hardcore, like the one death and everything's done. The first time you're really trying to make a game that teaches the user properly on their first go of something, that's pretty ambitious. I mean, they have that reputation of being crazy ambitious with whatever idea and then just trying to catch up with it. But it is pretty ambitious to go with a hardcore base mechanic the first time you're trying to teach anybody anything. But for them to have, like, that was one of my comment about me still thinking that this is Path of Exile 1, whereas you refuse to think of it as Path of Exile 1.
When I think of
right now, I get it's early access still, and lots can change, but there's still some things that you think, well, no, this is just going to be here for life. Like you think you're on death effects, right? For me, when I think of this game as a sequel, it's not good enough as a sequel. It's too frustrating of an experience. Not enough was fixed, quote unquote, from the old game. Like the things that have changed, I think are cool, but they're not the things that I wish were fixed from the first game, right? So they're neat, but they're not the things that drove me nuts. The things that drove me nuts in Path of Exile 1 are still in Path of Exile 2. So if I think of Path of Exile 2 as Path of Exile 1, I'm just playing the newest update, then I'm less frustrated because then there's the on-death effects are still the same. There'd be no hope in me thinking that those are going to get fixed in the sequel, right? They're staying in Path of Exile 1. The unmanaged enemy mods type of thing. Like when I'm fighting in Act 2 and somebody has Mana Siphoner and Life Regen in Act 2, I'm just playing for fun. Like I'm trying to play, and like what am I supposed to do, right? So now I've had
apparently die and then that mod goes away.
Right. Right. Not really. Even if you're not playing hardcore, it's not part of the experience that you're looking forward to when you sit down to play for a few hours. Now, I've done my best to have a fun time. My build's flowing great. I really enjoy it.
What are you playing? What are you doing with it?
So right now what I'm doing is I'm still on the same character, and I'm going to stick with this character for a long time. So I just had a lot of thoughts all at once, and my brain doesn't work that fast. That was quite exciting. Right. So, okay. So let me start with, remind me about zombies, okay? That'll be the trigger for everything.
And we're back. I don't remember what you told me to remind you of. Yeah. Sorry.
Zombies. So I'm the Chronomancer. I've ascended once, and fortunately for me, nothing else in the Chronomancer interests me. But I have tried to ascend a few times. I'm level 47 now. I was trying to ascend earlier, but I was still 3 or 4 levels above whatever it would have been. I hated it, man. Ascending's, like you said, the random part makes it so not fun.
Yeah.
The random and I tried for both Sanctum and Trialmaster, didn't like it. So I'm just going to stick with the one. It's fine. I play for fun, and well, I don't know. I'm fine planning my build around the one node that I wanted anyway. So I'm the Chronomancer, and I gave up on minions early, but this was like week 1 of early access. Right now we're 3 or 4 weeks into early access. So I gave up on minions early because they were not a solid option at that time for Act 1. Maybe they still aren't. I don't know. So I ended up going, and a few respecs later, I ended up getting into curses and the decaying hex. And
and it's working?
Yeah, it's not very strong. Its damage was doubled with one of the patches that GGG did, because its damage is based on intelligence. So you can't go on the tree and improve your chaos damage. You just have to improve your...
Sorry, finish that sentence, then I'll...
Yeah, you have to improve your intelligence or the chaos damage the enemy takes. I don't do
those are the only 2 things?
Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. And I'm back. Freaking kids and Christmas vacation. Get out of here.
Ugh, the worst.
All right, so continue.
While you were gone, so good luck.
Intelligence, yep.
So it's fine. Like it was a slow leveling process because it's early access too, right? And like I said, I'm not forgetting that it's early access, and I understand that I'm playing early access. So the fact that I'm not really enjoying my gameplay experience is fine, and that's what I'm expecting. It's early access. It's GGG's early access. So anyway, so I'm playing, and I'm trying to find different ways to scale my intelligence. I find a lot of places on the tree where, okay, yeah, I'm going to go aim for these. Of course, it takes time to get there, so the skill damage doesn't come up right away. Chaos Dot doesn't really have like a lot of the other combos where it's like you do this, and then you can get a big chunk of health out of the enemy or boss. Chaos Dot doesn't really have that with the current setup. A lot of it's based on kill stuff, which fine, but I'm already doing fine clear. And then it's also kind of about Chaos Dot stacking, like different aspects. There's a totem that shoots chaos at enemies, and it shoots more projectiles on that enemy based on how many different chaos debuffs are on the enemy.
What is doing that?
There's a totem that a skill. It's an active skill. It's a totem. And so, like if I have Essence Drain, and then there's like Decaying Touch, and then Contagion, I don't know, something, that totem will do a lot. So anyway, there's different ways to do that, but it's all about adding stuff on. There's no big chunk.
Yeah.
But it's been fun.
Which is kind of what chaos damage is. It's that sort of damage over time.
Yeah.
Typically.
One thing that I have noticed, no matter the types of skills that I've been trying, and I have been trying a bunch of different skills still, even though I'm making sure that I still have my curse damage skill, like that's still intact, but I have tons of other space, and so I'm playing around with different things. I'm finding this game is very kitey, I guess you could say. Like a lot of it is running around away. Like I'm not in the middle of combat right now. I am CI, right? And I went CI at the beginning of Act 3 on the first playthrough because there was just so much chaos damage that I was seeing. And it was a wonderful choice. I'm enjoying it a lot. I'm not re-rolling any flasks yet. I'm only really using my mana flask. But if I end up finding...
what could you do with a life flask?
I don't know, because like in my head, it would be bleed. Like it would be something about if it would do a different ailment. To me, I was thinking burning.
The flasks,
right?
Though. That's the charm.
Well, that's what the charms do. Right. So I don't know all the mods, and I'm intentionally not going on PoEDB or the wiki to look for those mods. But so I'm IDing the more relevant life flasks as they show up, just in case one of them has a mod that somehow benefits one of the weaknesses of CI. I don't know if that's the case. Haven't found one yet.
I haven't seen them either.
Yeah. So it's because part of it's probably because I'm CI, but a lot of it is I'm getting surrounded. So here's my dot damage that I'm giving you guys. There you go. And then I run around for a little bit and then dot damage. So when I was going through the acts, it would be something like the Dreadnought or other aspects where I found like one step forward, 2 steps back, right? Like I'd be constantly fighting in a zone that I'd already fought in because I need to go back 1 or 2 screens to make sure that it's safe. And I'm running around while the dot hits. And so yeah, I'm using Despair with Decaying Hex. That's the Chaos dot. And Impending Doom, which explodes if you let the curse expire.
Yeah.
So there's that.
Did you ever test if you recast it, how it was working? I remember last week you were saying you wanted, or maybe it was After Dark, you weren't sure how it would work if you recast it.
If I recast the same one, if I recast the same curse over top of itself, it doesn't, Impending Doom doesn't work, but I forgot to test it if I was just going to go. But also part of that was just because it costs too much. Like I'm looking at, I'm at 175 mana per cast. So what else? And then I'm also using, so I have 2 curses. Enfeeble's the other one right now. And so the one thing that I'm really enjoying playing with is the concept of cast, the trigger spells. Cast on Minion Death is a lot of fun. And I'm curious if the benefits that we're getting from the first 3 acts are going to be duplicated when the second 3 acts come out. Because now we're doubling up on the bonuses we get from the optional boss kills, right? Like an extra 10% cold resist. There was a boss that gave an extra 30%, an extra 30 flat
it's
spirit.
Different bosses, but I think in general you can find the same ones. But yeah, it's not the same.
Well, but we don't have the last 3 acts out yet.
Oh, I'm sorry. So I'm talking about the replay because the replay, yes, it's a little different in the replay, but
okay. So I'm curious how that's going to work when the other acts come out because it's I'm thinking ahead, right? Thinking ahead. So, but cast on Minion Death is a lot of fun because now I have my 2 warrior skeletons that have Minion Instability and Infernal Legion. So basically they just burn down and then explode when they get to low life. And every time they die, cast on Minion Death casts my spells, right? But I have Enfeeble on there. So that's pretty fun because now I have 2 skeletons running. And the thing that I like about cast, for curses anyway, is when the minions run and they die, Enfeeble casts from where they are, not where I am. And I really like that. The frustrating thing is Enfeeble casts twice because there's 2 skeletons. So now that's like 325 mana. Because it costs spirit, but also mana. And I love that it costs mana. I think that's very, very smart. I was disappointed when I saw it, but that makes perfect sense.
Are you just getting those skeletons from the scepter, or how are you getting those
just from the scepter. Yep. But I'm enjoying that. And so I was playing around, and there's a couple glitches on the screen, so I wasn't sure how it was going to work. But Impending Doom only works, and it says this on the skill. You can only get Impending Doom damage if you cast it yourself. You can't. Impending Doom doesn't work on triggered curses. But the Chaos Drip, the Decaying Touch or Decaying Hex, that works when the minions cast Enfeeble. So that was something that I've been playing with, especially on one boss. I actually had to switch it around because all I was doing was running around. I didn't have a hope for getting a lot of downtime to do anything else. So that was actually how I beat Doriani. Was I put both hexes and chaos, and decaying touch, decaying hex, whatever it is, on my skeletons. And then I just moved around. And then whenever I felt safe, I did a few essence drain casts. And 20 hours later, Doriani was down. But it's fun. So I'm in the late 40s now. I'm just starting Act 1, in Cruel. And I'm very close now. I'm only a couple gem levels away from unlocking Temporal Chains with the whole builds around. But that's going to be the idea anyway. And I'm planning around using 2 curses. And so one's going to be a damage curse, one's going to be Temporal Chains. And I think my experience, unfortunately, I have to wait till level 54, but my experience will be a little bit more enjoyable at that point because enemies will be quite slowed. I've invested a lot in curse efficiency. So by the time Temporal Chain shows up, I'll be doing a lot less kiting and I'll be able to be a little bit more active in the combat experience.
Your comment about hitting level 54 and hopefully, sorry to interrupt, but so that it will a little bit more enjoyable was actually a thought I had last night when I went to bed, which was minions for me were awful until I unlocked, I can't remember what, but it was Reavers for sure, but then even further along. So I was probably well into my 50s. My warrior became more enjoyable when I unlocked upheaval, which was way later. And so I'm trying to think for the monk, like maybe this will get better when I get to higher levels, but that's not, I can't imagine that that's what their hope is for the player experience. So I would be surprised if we don't see some shifts or something change, or maybe it'll be new things coming out or something. But there is, for me at least, a lack of enjoyment and more of a just like meh feeling until I get later on. And I've had that so far with both characters that are into maps. And now I'm kind of thinking that it might be that way for the monk, but I'm not totally sure. But it's interesting when you say like, well, at 54, I unlocked this. And so then like 54 is a long way away.
It is. That's like every single TV show you make starting to pick up in season 4.
Yeah, when people say you just gotta, you just slug it through the first couple seasons, but then it gets good.
Right. Yeah.
No, thank you.
Like and you know, a lot of it is just because it's early access and there's just not that variety. There's not a lot of ascendancies that currently interest me, but there's 24 more coming out. There's not a lot of skips right now that interest me, but I mean, this is a handful compared to what GGG is expecting to have.
Yeah,
I do think though that like the thing, I'm gonna bring up zombies. To have zombies unlock at gem level 5, but not have a way of having corpses is weird.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like that's just weird. And now you can unlock that sacrifice unlocks later, where you can use your skeletons as your living skeletons as corpses instead. But that again is that's the level 3 spirit gem. You know what I mean? So
it's way
like
later.
it's just weird to have, like, when you know that's how a skill unlocks, you don't really have a valid support system for it yet. Even like getting power charges, it comes much later after the zombies unlock. So just knowing that as they release early access and just having it there, it just seems a little too apathetic. So hopefully, despite the fact that yes, a lot more gems are coming, there's also going to be kind of a little bit more forethought into why certain gems unlock at certain stages. Because I would hate, like, just for me, sure, it was Act 1, but one of my biggest pet peeves, just as a zombie player from Path of Exile 1, was the whole when Desecrate unlocks versus when zombies unlock, and when zombies need Desecrate versus when they don't. So, anyway, that's where my build is at. But the hope that I have is that I will actually be able to make slow-mo zombies with this build.
With zombies, though, specifically?
Yeah, well, right now I don't like any of the minions that are released. There's not a huge variety.
I have to say they are awesome though. Like the auto resin takes so much of the work out of playing a minion character.
Oh, definitely.
It's awesome.
Definitely. And how did you find, actually, like, you had 1 billion skeletons at some point in your build? Is spirit something that did you have to really focus on increasing your spirit on mods?
Yeah, so you can get it. I did. I had to get it. Obviously, it comes on the scepter. You can get it on the chest, and you can get it on the amulet. And I used for a little bit a unique shield that I just happened to find that was plus 50 spirit and chaos res. So I was like, all right, I'll just wear that for now. I did eventually get rid of that for resistances and lost a couple minions for it. But yes,
as your gems level, they require less spirit as well, right?
Up to a certain point. So they do decrease how much spirit they require, but very early on it hits that. You know, like my Reavers, for example, I think have been 26. There's also a note on the tree that gives you a reduction to how much they are. So that combined with it, I think I got it down to like 26. But yeah, you do have to focus on spirit.
Sure.
But which I think that's fine. Because I think there was enough stuff dropping for me, at least, to find stuff that had spirit on it. That being said, if you are in trade, it's obviously way easier to get your spirit up.
Minions are always going to be in that tricky state because you have that much more investment, especially if they have this reservation system with spirit. Because, okay, now you're investing into spirit. You're investing minion survivability. You're investing into minion damage. But now you also need your own investment for your own character, and like that's very split up. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
it really needs to have a reward. And the really tough thing about minions is once you're set up, it can seem very overpowered, but it can also come at the cost of very smart and meticulous planning too, right? Like
I enjoy them.
It's tricky to balance.
Now, like I kind of play in the monk, I'm like, I kind of want to just go back to the minion player. But I also have spent a ton of time on that character, got them up. It took me, even at 90, I don't really have, there are like 2 or 3 more nodes that I really feel like I would notice a difference. And it's funny because they aren't, the main one that I really want is, it's a cluster I'm very close to, but it would just let me cap out the resistances on the minions. But I'm choosing to go defensive for myself first with ES because I have the 20% faster revive. I've got 2 clerics running. I can hopefully keep them up. That being said, you can see it on some of the fights when there's like fire, ground, or whatever. You can watch the minions' health, and I guess they're no different than we are, where 78% or 80% resistances is massively different than 60%. So
all right,
but that's I sacrificed for sure some of that to get my own defenses because you're spread out. I will say though that from the witch starting point, you at least have some pretty good options with regards to whether you're going to go ES or go the mind over matter, because the infernalist definitely pairs well with one of those choices. The fact that you're sacrificing 25% of your health for either ES or for mana, it does lend itself really well to those options. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like ES and mana, though, mind over matter, are so much better than health right now. I feel like health is HP is not in as good of a spot as going ES. Like even when I was thinking with the monk, I don't want to do another ES style, but I'm like, God, it's just so much easier. It's so much easier.
Well, one thing that I've actually noticed, and I did go on the wiki for this because I was still, like somebody posted in Discord, they beat the Act 3 boss and a lesser life flask drops as one of the rewards. I'm like, oh, right. So anyway, I go on, and because I also, I'm trying to have self-control when it comes to, I want to discover things in the game. But I did check to see what the levels of life flasks were, because I was really surprised with my mana flask. I was really surprised with how little mana my mana flask was giving me. And I'm like, but this is like the best one that's dropping currently. Like I'm on Gigantic or whatever it is. I'm like, it is. So I went and checked out the levels, and I'm on like the 3rd highest life and mana flask. Like there's not going to be that many more. And it gives so little in terms
of
what
mana do you have?
Oh, I don't know. But it's giving me like a 1/3 of my bar.
Oh, really?
And I'm like, And I'm like, man, like that's not a lot at all. And then I look at the values. I forget what the values were, but I'm like, oh, wow, that's really not a lot when I'm looking at, if I was playing a life character and doing this. And so I was just surprised by that. And it's interesting because mana, and that's why something like a mod like the Mana Siphoner is so baffling to me. Like, don't copy that from Path of Exile 1, because mana, like the game revolves around you needing mana to do anything now. Unless you're doing the basic attack bit, you need mana, right? There's a few archetypes, sure, that can get away without it, be like a minion build or something. But if you're going melee, if you're going spellcasting, like there's a lot of very stereotypical ones that need mana to do basic functions besides walk around. So to have
you can't be a mid-range character with Mana Siphoner either, because you either have to be right on top of the mob or way far away from the mob. And if that Mana Siphoner is paired with anything related to melee, for example, like, well, not melee, but frozen circles around it or fire circles around it, if I have to stand in the middle of that, like I can't see it anyway. So yeah, I agree with you.
So it's one of those things where I was surprised that mod existed because of the dependency of mana. And so, for example, for me, I would love to go mind over matter. I think it's actually really, it sounds overpowered from a defensive standpoint because mind over matter now uses all of your mana. It's not just a certain percentage, it's just all of it until it's used up. And that sounds great if you don't need your mana, but now all of a sudden
you can't use all of it.
Yeah, you can't use 30% anymore, which you could still use mana for things before because you were only losing 30% of your mana before, or 30% of damage is taken from mana, whatever it was. Yeah,
is it 100%? I thought it was 50%. Mind over matter was 50% of damage is taken from mana.
I think it's 100.
Huh. I didn't think that what I thought mind over matter was 50% of damage is taken from mana, because there was a couple other modifiers you could get that would increase that a little bit so that it was higher. But I'm trying to think of if there's I'm trying to think if there's a way that you can actually make mana.
All damage is taken from mana before life, 50% less mana recovery rate.
That's what the new one is.
That's mind over matter. And
interesting. So then you definitely have to go into like mana regen and high mana pool. Yeah.
And I would love to do that. It's even on my tree selected here as I'm waiting to get it. But as I play with curses and I have 150 per cast, it's going to be, I looked up the curse gems on the wiki, and it's going to be like 250 base cast cost before all the multipliers.
Does that include anything you can do to decrease it though?
Oh, sure. There's investments that I could do. But I mean, if I'm auto triggering curses as well, it's just, I need my mana, right? I'm screwed if I don't have my mana. So one of the things that I wanted to try with the build, of course, was adding zombies to the build. And so, but I'd have my reservation for other things, right? For all the cast triggering that I want to do. So I wouldn't be able to do skeletons. There wouldn't be enough there because all the triggering meta gems require spirit instead. So then I would, right now I'm forced to go with zombies. I don't really like any of the other minions. Zombies are the only ones currently that don't reserve anything. And if I don't want to worry about their survivability, one thing that I could do to maintain my investment in curse efficiency is to have my zombies explode. They're already duration zombies anyway, so it's frustrating to me to care about survivability on something that has a duration. Like if you're playing skeletons or SRS and PoE1, it always bothered me that I needed to put something in them a little bit to survive.
Yeah.
So add minion instability to them instead of the skeletons that I currently have, and then add Infernal Legion as well, and then have the zombies just run at enemies and explode. That's something that I would kind of try to like to do. And so then instead of despair, I would have flammability, right? And hope that my flammability curse would be a substantial replacement for the minion damage investment that I would have on the tree instead. And then there's Impending Doom, which does that chaos explosion at the end of a curse's duration or expiration, I guess.
What kind of damage it does? What's the type?
Chaos damage. But there's another one that they added that has that instead it's burning ground that it adds instead.
Oh, is that a support that you have to do for that?
Okay. Support. Yeah. One frustrating thing right now with the game is those like decaying touch or hex, that burning one that I just mentioned, or even something like minion instability. Those are supports that do damage. And there's nothing in the game that tells you what that damage does. Like when I go to the gem screen and I can see what, hey, these supports work with this skill, it doesn't support supports. You know what I mean? I can't highlight minion instability and see what supports that. When I go into the skill screen on the side where it shows like damage over time and stuff like that, and like the DPS counter, it doesn't do support damage, the damage that comes specifically from supports. So that needs to get fixed, but I'm trying to work around it and see what works. And so that's kind of the idea. I'm hoping to be able to still use temporal chains, but then go to flammability and see if the zombies exploding is enough. Because especially now that if you're using Infernal Legion, if it works the same way, if dots still work the same way, multiple Infernal Legions, that's like the minion RF, right? That constant ignite. Multiple ignites don't stack. Those are Path of Exile 1 rules. Don't know if that's the case currently, but multiple Infernal Legions in Path of Exile 1 didn't stack. So that would be kind of a stress relief for me because, with the exception of the minions exploding, I don't have to worry about having all 10 zombies up because only one of those dots is going to matter, right? So, Of course, the explosions matter, but then it's just bonus coins. So those are the things I'm playing with in my mind, but I'm not even close to it yet. I need to unlock temporal chains. And
is temporal chains, what's the percentage? Like, what's the percentage that slows? Do you remember?
27, 28%, I think, at gem level 20. But of course, it's different based on rarity.
And are those slows multiplicative with your Chronomancer one? Like, will it be a 47%?
That I don't know. I think that's additive. Right. So I think 20% is additive to the, let's just say it's 25% from temporal chains. So I think that would equal 45%. But then any investments I have on the tree, of course, are going to be curse specific. Yeah. So that curse specific multiplier won't apply to the 20% from my Chronomancer. It'll only apply to the curse.
That makes sense.
There are opportunities to invest in slow magnitude.
Yes, I've seen that. I've seen the magnitude stuff, and I don't.
So I assume investing into slow magnitude, if it's not a local multiplier, like if it's not a support gem for a certain thing, right? Because encumbrance is something that increases slow magnitude for the supported gem. So that'll be on temporal chains. But if I can invest in a global slow magnitude, I assume that would impact the Chronomancer skill.
Do you know, and I haven't done this because I haven't done the Chronomancer, but you know how you can hit the button to like read all of the different underlined things in the skills, which is great. Do you know if it said anything about cannot be, because I have seen on a couple uniques now where it actually tells me if it's giving me a stat, it will actually say that it cannot be, I don't know what the word that they use is. It's not altered, but cannot be affected by anything else. Do you know if it says that for that one?
No, it doesn't.
So then you would think so, if it's considered a slow.
I would hope so. Nobody can tell if it's on or working or not. There's nothing indicating that it exists in the game. So Joe was saying that he did some testing. He was specking and unspecking and kept running away from the same base type of enemy. And he said that he could run away from this fast enemy when he had it specced on, but there's nothing in the game that tells you whether it's on the enemy, on you, debuff, nothing. So hopefully that changes, because then it'll be, it's a little bit easier to interact with something when you have a little bit more.
What would you want to see that it shows as a debuff on the enemy?
I guess technically it would be. Withering Presence shows up as a debuff on the enemy, and they do a good job with that. It's a very faint little like purple dots or mist on the enemies, but it's very easy to see, but it's easy to zone out and tune out as well. So they did a really good job of that. So maybe something like that. I don't know. But so that's my idea. I'm hopefully going to get there. But unfortunately, like we were saying, this really picks up in season 4 because I need sacrifice so that I can use skeletons to raise my zombies, because there's no like desecrate. There's nothing that creates corpses in the game. Well, I mean, outside of uniques, but like I'm playing Alpha. I'm not going to go for that yet. So, well, yeah, but I mean, Doriani had no ads.
No ads. No.
And great fight. Great
cool
fight. But like,
but yeah,
I'm thinking, how can I do this? So I need sacrifice for that. And another thing that I'm thinking about, you know how zombies can be empowered? Yeah, you can summon them. You can raise them from a power charge instead of corpse, right? And so an empowered zombie does 100% more damage with hits.
Okay.
So I'm curious if I have minion instability when my zombie explodes and that instability hits, does that more from the empowered zombie apply to the minion instability explosion?
I don't
think it does, but that's my guess as well. Yeah. But I would like to find out, because then if I'm going with minion instability, that'll tell me if I can ignore power charges or not.
Right. How are you going to generate power charges? Have you figured that part out?
So there's a profane ritual, lets you consume a corpse and it gives you a power charge. But if my skeletons from sacrifice are already corpses, right? They count as corpses, then I can just consume a skeleton.
Okay,
right?
Cool.
And then I can hit my zombie button and then they go running forward and explode. So I want to try and find a way that's a fun way to play. I want to see how it works and test it and play with it. Of course, having temporal chains will give me the time I need
to test that out,
right? In game. But then there's also, how does this interact with this and that? And then I'm going to have to rearrange all my cast on minion death and check out other trigger skills, because I don't want to have to hit 8 buttons for my build to work. I want to see if I can make it work in the way that's fun for me. So I'm enjoying the hope of what it is, but I'm having a frustrating experience
getting there.
Like I said, the honestly, like, it's not exciting when a rare shows up. I'm relieved when the rare is just I'm going to say a normal rare, but like just 2 dangerous mods, not 2 stupid mods. Like it's a relief for me. I don't get excited and then disappointed when it's a bad combo. I'm like, oh crap, another rare. And I'm like, oh, sweet. Okay, it's mine. Woo.
I can fight this one.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm not saying like it's easy to kill. It's still like an 8-hour battle, but it's good. So that's kind of where I'm at. And then, of course, like, I'm trying to enjoy the game, and people are giving me a hard time for being negative about the game. But then there's the river hags.
Oh,
I come across them in Act 3.
I told you.
You did. I thought that was going to be a boss. No, it's just like 6 river hags. Like,
I've never seen 6 of them
just
in a
casting.
Group,
and so for people that
they're defensive,
don't know
there's something on them. I don't know what it is, but they have more defense or more life or something than the mobs around them. They're assholes.
Those that are flying through the game and not going at a snail's pace like myself, the river hag is a very small little mod. It looks like a very muddy, small little tree, and it's a caster, and it casts these quite big dark teal. What is dark teal? There's got to be a word for that. Dark teal, like, orbs that mud their way along, and then once they hit you or get close to you, then they have a dot, kind of like how Vortex used to look in Path of Exile 1. But it's dark teal, and it's nasty, and it's muddy. But here's the thing. As that orb is moving, it's a big orb, and once it turns into Vortex on the ground, it slows you. Like, it really encumbers you a lot, but it also drains your mana. But once it's finished draining your mana, it also drains your life or your health pool, your ES. This is in Act 3. Now, one of those is enough. Like, you're fighting a bunch of enemies at once. It's not a one-on-one battle. So you're fighting, and all of a sudden there's these things that are like these huge AoEs that are slowing you down and draining your mana. So you're trying to get out of the way, but you're also trying to get out of the way of the danger of all the other mods. But they cast it quick. Like, one of those guys could easily have 3 of these vortexes kicking around on the screen at one time. And you're like, okay, well, I got to like get free, get safe. But, it's Path of Exile. Unfortunately, this game is still a mini-map game. You get caught on a lot of things where you think you should be able to get through and you can't. So you're running around, you're dodging around, but now you try and do that with like 3, 4, 5 river hags on the same screen. You're like, screw this.
For a melee character, that even one is dangerous, because I did some testing with somebody in Discord, and they do 2 casts. So they do the first cast, which is the Vortex. It's this bluey teal, looks like what Vortex used to look like. It's this swirly circle. But then they cast a sphere. And the sphere, if you go into the sphere or are near the sphere, you get very, very quickly, like, monstrously slowed. But it doesn't do damage while you're in the sphere. It just instantly kills you if you stay in it too long. It literally works like a Eater of Worlds orb. If you stay in the circle for too long, and that's in your screen starts to go like whatever, it looks like it's getting hazy and twisty. It's just a timer. It's, if you've been in that circle for too long, you're dead. There's no, you won't even see any drain on anything. You're just instantly dead.
Oh,
it's so, and then they put them at the beginning of Act 4. Like, when you first like, aha, hip, hip, I'm through it. Well, you said you were in Act 4.
I'm starting Act 4.
Oh, so you haven't gone through the portal yet? Like, at the end of Act 3, you have to go through the portal.
Yes, I have gone through that. And so now I've started. And so I've been reintroduced to the river hags at the beginning.
Yeah, at the beginning, I was like, you gotta be kidding. When I find those things in maps, I'm like, I just want to start something else. I don't want to do these. If minions, it's no problem. But when I was playing my first character, the warrior, I was like, what? I'm already slow. And if you,
right,
what am I supposed to do with this stupid? It's the worst mob design I've ever seen. Sorry to whoever made it, but you are an asshole. Like, that is the
I was joking with Justin that whoever it is that not just designed this, but then also the person that says, yeah,
anyone who
put
had
that in the game. That's right. We swear you're actually trying to tank the company. There is zero fun per hour.
It is the worst.
Dude, so I'm going through Act 3, and I'm excited for the progress. I'm seeing my characters slowly come together.
Too.
Sure.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. And I'm progressing fine. All of a sudden, I get to a few of these, and these aren't because of modifiers. These are just the design of the base of the enemy.
Mm-hmm.
It was there was a few such brutal, it was not fun. So I actually just sprinted through a couple areas. I didn't care. I died a couple times in my attempt, but I sprinted through, got to the next area, had a great time. Cleared it, no problem. It wasn't it wasn't a damage problem. It was just the combination of how unfun it was. I'm going through, and we joked about, I thought I finished Act 3 3 times. Those bosses were great. I had so much fun.
So cool.
Seriously, the tingles I got in my spine when what's the Viper? When she's the shields all around her, and they go
out. Yeah.
Oh man,
just awesome fight. So hard. That fight is crazy hard.
I'm going through these are supposed to be my pinnacle encounters, and I'm going through, and they feel like pinnacle encounters. I'm having to retry them a lot, and I'm having a fun time trying to learn these fights. It's good, and I'm playing the perfect build for me because I'm doing the chaos dot. I just huck the curse on. It lasts for 7 seconds.
Then you do it again.
I get to run around and learn. Yeah, it's taking a long time, but I'm learning these boss fights really well.
Yep.
And I'm learning every time I cast something, I'm like, oh man, I wish I was the Pathfinder or whatever the Pathfinder is, because they have you can't be slowed. Right. But then they also have the reduced cast or action time, you're double the speed or something like that. Or it's halved the penalty, something like that. So anyway, I keep thinking about that. But I'm going through these pinnacle encounters and I'm having a great time. I am getting mutilated by certain base types of enemies, just normal enemies, just because of the combination of what they are. It was so unfun. So same thing. I start Act 4, Act 1, lots of river hags. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. I just beat Doriani. Sure, it took me 15 attempts, but that was a good fight. That was a lot of fun. I just beat Doriani in this stupid little mud tree. It's so anyway, I sprint through that area. I beat the bloated miller, which the bloated miller should be more difficult. I beat the bloated miller, and I actually liked that difficulty spike too. I was curious what the bosses would be like going into Cruel, and the bloated miller, and then that cold witch that summons wolves in the next area. Good fights, a decent pickup. I was whoa for both, but I still did them. And so anyway, I didn't mean to ramble, but it's good. That's where I'm going.
Cool. Well, I'm excited for you to get to 54. Hopefully temporal chains doesn't, you get it and you're like, well, that doesn't work.
Hopefully, it's exciting when you get a level 10 gem or a level 12 gem. The current setup, hopefully that's different. Hopefully they have things unlocked for every level, not just every second level. Because right now it kind of sucks where you're like, oh yeah, sweet, what new gems are? Oh, it's just gem upgrades. It's not, so hopefully they'll come out with that different.
We do have to wrap this up because I got to deal with something. But you know how we talk about this whole tiering system with loot and not seeing stuff that's super low tier when you're up higher tier? I was reminded very quickly when I started the monk, because I just haven't noticed it. I just didn't pay attention to it. They do that. They do use a tiered system for drops when it comes to skill gems. I have so many probably from level 12 to level 15 uncut skill gems. First off, the tab for it caps at 500. I'm capped. So I'm full, but it is full with level 12, 13, 14, and 15 skill gems, uncut skill gems, and then tier 3 supports. But I have not gotten tier 2 supports, tier 1 supports, and nothing under level 12 for skill gems. They don't drop once you're at a high enough level. I don't know why they don't do that with other things. Flasks must still work because, again, I'm just using I'm not using any filter. I am using Neversink's, but his doesn't cut anything out. He purposefully did it. It's just like a temp one while he fixes his stuff, but it does not hide anything. the flasks aren't showing at the lower tier. So I'm not really sure. Like, I don't know if they're still figuring it out.
The system we want them to. It's just way too lenient. And there's some things
I wonder if they're still trying to figure it out. I'm hopeful that maybe they're trying to figure it out as they go. Hold on, let me get that one. But yeah, it was interesting because when I went to level the monk, I was like, oh, no problem. I got a bunch of things. No, I don't. I can't, because I can't use I can't use a level 12 uncut one. You can use the tier 3 supports, which is fine, but I'm literally using tier 3 supports to unlock level 1 supports.
Thing with drops though, with items, when you have items that are only unlocked at a certain area level and they already have a predetermined value, whether it's armor or damage or skill or whatever, is you don't really need to try out what should be available when. If something has a unique implicit, it should always be able to drop, right? So for example, a scepter that's the skeleton scepter, that's a level 1 drop. And that's the skeleton scepter, that's just what it is, right? So you don't want to hide that. If you want a level 20 skeleton warrior, you don't want that to stop showing up, right? So if it has a unique implicit, you've designed it to always show up. But if it doesn't have a unique implicit, and let's say you're doing an energy shield body armor, if in 5 levels another base type unlocks that has a higher energy shield, there's no reason to have the other one. So the rules themselves don't have to be complicated. It's just the drop rates of things for things that you've designed to have unlocked. Now, why you would have 700 items when you're only going to have a handful of them be, relevant at some point is up to them. But at the end of the day, it's the drop rates of valid items that matter. It drives me nuts when the RNG includes
those things that you're never going to use.
Sense. Mm-hmm. Right, because then you could argue about a whole bunch of different, that's when, okay, so now you have a little bit more leeway with crappy modifiers because it's always going to be a relevant base type, as opposed to, well, this isn't a great base type, but it has better modifiers. Like it's better to be excited about your drops than to not be.
Yeah.
Anyway,
well, hopefully they're still figuring it out, but yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's wrap this up. Forever Exiled 273. I'm Justin AK Tags.
And I'm Tyler, Wrecker of Days.
Patrons will catch you in After Dark. Everybody else, we'll see you next week in 274. Have a very happy and safe New Year's. If you're looking for more information, you can find down below. We got a website, foreverexiled.com. We have a very fun Discord. Pop in and say hi. And Patreon and other ways to support the podcast. Find them as well as previously mentioned.